Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how I make my own homemade cold brew. So to start with, I'm going to go over everything that you'll need. So you'll need either beans or coffee grounds. You'll need a coffee grinder if you're grinding your own beans. So I purchased this Black & Decker off of Amazon. I really like it. It doesn't hold a ton of coffee, but it definitely does a really good job, and I do find the grind pretty consistent. You will need a vessel to hold your cold brew in, as well as water. So today I am using the Kirkland House Blend coffee beans. I really like these coffee beans. I feel like it's just a really good flavor. I'm also going to use a scale. So I have my water, my grinder, my vessel to keep my, or pitcher if you will, to keep my cold brew. And let's get started. So I am going to go ahead and grind my beans. I typically use a fairly coarse grind when I am grinding my beans for cold brew. Of course, if you're doing like regular drip coffee, you'd want to use a finer grind. I do have to fill this hopper a couple times when I'm doing this process, and I will make my coffee like a bunch of coffee beans ahead of time. So here I'm just showing you that I have it set as coarse as it'll go, and then I will run through the 12 cup cycle probably 3 to 4 times per pitcher of coffee. I'm just getting my scale set up and tiered so that it'll be just easy, and I can just start kind of measuring out my coffee. I do prefer to use a scale. I find I do get a more consistent amount of coffee when I do it this way. So my ratio is 190 grams of ground coffee to 1,425 grams of water. For water, I prefer to use boiled water that's been cooled down to room temperature. That's just me being picky. You can definitely use filtered water. You could use tap water. It really doesn't matter. I just prefer the taste when I do it that way. So I've double checked that I boiled the kettle the night before, and then it's come down to room temperature by the morning. So here I am just weighing out my coffee. I did start measuring, and I will have measurements and all the information for this recipe in the description box, but I started measuring out like what 190 grams of coffee looks like, and I stopped, and I ended up just doing it with the grounds at the end and kind of just did it on the side, so kind of ignore me attempting to use my measuring cup. So here I am just dumping the coffee in. I will say the process making it at home is pretty messy, which is why I like to grind my coffee as much as I can ahead of time. So I'll grind enough for an additional 2 to 3 batches. The coffee's still fairly fresh. I do keep it in like an air sealed jar, but it just means less mess, and I only maybe grind my coffee beans once a month, maybe twice if I don't grind enough. But I'm just making sure I hit that 190 grams. There we go. And now I will just zero out my scale, and I will add my water. It's a pretty easy process. It doesn't take a lot of time to get your coffee ready to be brewed. I would say the longest piece in the process is actually, for me anyway, and maybe I do it a long way, and maybe there's a better way. So if you know of a better way, comment down below. I've thought about doing maybe like the French press method, but I do like this method because I double filter my coffee. I'll show you the next morning. I also love my little handheld Black & Decker vacuum dust buster thing. It works great, and I use it anytime I spill anything on the countertop, and it gets it really quickly. And it died on me, so I had to just quickly give it a little bit of a charge. You definitely want to give your coffee a really good stir, and then you seal it. I have a pitcher that has a Loctite lid, so when I put it on, I twist it and it's locked on, and I just leave my cold brew on the counter overnight. I don't refrigerate it. I don't think it really makes a difference if you refrigerate it or not. It's totally up to you and your preference. But yeah, so I just leave it and then I come back the next morning. So I've got my pitcher of cold brew. I have my measuring cups, my colander or strainer, and then I used cheesecloth, and I also use my homemade filters as well. So these are just a tea towel that was 100% cotton that I cut up to be filters, and I absolutely love it. I am trying to reduce my footprint, and this was just a really easy step that I could make. I also reuse my cheesecloth as well. I just pulled out new ones for this video for the aesthetic of having nice, clean, white, crisp cheesecloth. So I will fold 2 sections in half, so it'll be 4 layers total. And I find that this just really filters out the coffee grinds. You'll still get some of the sediment that's finer or really fine grounds as well. I do a double filter for that reason, but this just kind of for the initial process of actually filtering out the coffee grounds, I really like to do this first. I always give mine a really good stir because the coffee grounds on the bottom will kind of solidify, and I just like to loosen them up to make it easier to clean out the pitcher, because this is a pitcher I also store my coffee in the fridge. So here I am just doing the initial filter of the coffee. And I kind of swirl it around a little bit, make sure that I'm getting as much of the coffee as possible. Now this is the process that's a little bit more time consuming. Doing it once a week isn't bad, but doing the grinding and then this makes it a little bit of a process, but I do like the consistency, the cost savings, as well as just having the control over like what's going in my coffee. I really like that, so I don't mind taking these steps. And like I said, I'm sure there's an easier way, but this is just kind of my method, and I find it really effective, and I definitely get the flavor of cold brew that I want and the strength that I want and like. So my measuring cup is it's always a little bit, I need a little bit more room when I'm doing this, so I end up using 2 measuring cups. And then I'm just going to get as much as grinds as possible. When I do this last kind of dump and like filter the grinds, I will give it like a little bit of a squeeze, a little bit like harder of a squeeze, just to get like as much of that coffee out as possible. And then I'll clean out all my cloths. So now I'm just going to clean out the pitcher so that I can go ahead and basically do my next process of filtering out the coffee. So with my home handmade filters being 100% cotton, they do filter really nicely. They definitely pull all that sediment out, and I get a really clean filtered coffee at the end. This process can take a little bit. I'm just showing you here that they are 100% cotton, but this process does take a little bit of time, so I don't necessarily stand here while it's filtering. I will actually let it filter, and I'll do this while I'm feeding my son breakfast, and just kind of dump a little bit, go feed him a few bites, get up, change the filter, put in more, just because it does take a little bit of time to filter. I just really like to get the sediment out. I'm sure you don't have to. It wouldn't hurt to keep it in there, but like I said, the taste for me is just so much better when I do the double filter. I probably could even, do another layer of cheesecloth and just kind of add another layer of filtration. So there's so many ways you can do this and personalize this process. So go ahead and do what you got to do, but this is just what works for me. So after I let this filter through, I will check how much coffee that I actually got out of this batch, and I will match the amount of coffee that I got with water. I'm just going to clean out the pitcher. So I look, and it's almost 4 cups, so I will just pour the concentrated coffee into the pitcher, and then I will take the pitcher and I will fill it with water. And I forgot to boil water, so I have to use tap water for this batch, but I will, again, like I did when I'm making it, I will typically use boiled water that's been brought down to room temperature. So as you guys can see, it's dark, it's pretty thick, really for a coffee consistency. So once I add the water in, I can give it a good stir, and I find the 1-to-1 ratio is perfect for my taste. My husband likes it as well, so we just maintain that 1-to-1 ratio. And keeping your measurements consistent will definitely produce consistent amount of coffee, which I appreciate. So I know basically how long this will last me. And then I just know exactly, the process and how much I can get. And it basically fills up the whole pitcher, which is perfect. So I just pop the lid on and then store it in the fridge till it's done. And it doesn't last longer than a week. And then here is me attempting to make an aesthetically pleasing cup of cold brew. I love that Oreo creamer. It is delicious. That's currently all I mix with my coffee right now, and I absolutely love it. So if you can find it, I recommend trying it. Thank you so much for checking out my video. I will see you in the next one. Cheers!